Not sure how to tell your parents that you have an eating disorder? Does the thought of even broaching the subject with them bring up immense anxiety? That's why I've created this video with lots of different ideas and ways to tell your parents that will fit your unique situation. By the end of this video, you will actually have a roadmap and a plan to move forward so that you can take those important steps even if you are feeling this immense anxiety. This is really critically important so that you can get the support you need and the help you need so that you can move forward on your recovery journey. If you want to know more, please keep watching. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jessica Scalzo with Compassionate Peer Counseling, here to support you on your journey to recovery from an eating disorder. First of all, I'm not a 49ers fan. Don't get it twisted. This is only for one person only, and that is Colin Kaepernick. And the NFL needs to give him his job back. That's a whole nother video, though. Let's get into some personal truths about talking to your parents and telling them that you have an eating disorder. So this video is based off of both personal truths, my own experience, as well as some research. It took me 5 years into my eating disorder and feeling like I had hit rock bottom to actually tell my parents and ask for help. I was away at college, I was there on a running scholarship, and running was going downhill. I was suffering with injuries, my school was going downhill, and I had just had a major binge and I just didn't know what else to do. So I called them crying and said, I have to come home, I have to get better. Now, I don't know if that is your situation. I'm sure there's a multitude of situations that all of you could be in. And the moral of my story is that there is never a wrong time to tell your parents and to ask for help. Personal truths. 1, you are under no obligation to tell anybody if you don't want to. Telling someone needs to be because you want to, because you value it, and because you think it's really, really important and it can help you to recover. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to feel comfortable. Wanting something and having it feel comfortable are not the same thing. But there's a big difference between having something be uncomfortable that you want and having something feel not safe and not something that will be beneficial to you. So I trust you to know what that difference is. The second thing is that you have to go at your own pace. So maybe you can only share a little bit at first, and that is just fine. Do not try to tell somebody everything because you feel like you have to in order to get help. Make sure you're going at a pace that is doable for yourself. There is no right way or wrong way to tell someone that you have an eating disorder, including your parents. It must be a way that is authentic and true to you. And then the last thing is that you cannot control anyone's reactions, including your parents. And this is the part that makes it so scary and painful, because they may react in a way that doesn't make you feel supported and you have no control over that. And that is something to keep in mind. Whether they act in a way that's supportive or in a way that is not supportive, it has nothing to do with you. And above all else, you deserve support unconditionally. Quick note. If you don't want to tell your parents and you don't feel comfortable telling your parents, is there a trusted adult that you would feel comfortable telling? This could look like a coach, a teacher, a school nurse, a friend's parents, or maybe even your boss. I don't know, but maybe. You'll know who these trusted adults are in your community. And if you don't feel like telling your parents, this can be a great option. Even if you feel like telling your parents, this could also be another way to have support. Preliminary steps. Think about what your intent is in telling your parents. For most of you, it's probably going to be to get that love and support and that help and treatment that you need. There may be another reason, though. We're all different, and I may be missing something here. So think about what your intent is, because this will help you to decide what you want to say to your parents and how you want to say it. The next thing is to decide how you want to tell your parents. An in-person meeting is great, but it doesn't have to be the only way to tell them. You could write them a letter, you could have a phone call, you could even make a video like this and just give it to your parents to watch. In addition to this, you can decide if you want to have a support person with you. This can be a great option to have somebody with you while you're telling your parents. And this, again, doesn't have to be in person. They can be with you while you're making a video or while you're making a phone call. And your support person could be a friend that you trust and you find supportive, or another trusted adult in the community that you also find supportive. It could even be a sibling that you find supportive. In addition to this, there are online support groups specifically for people with eating disorders, and they usually even specify what type of eating disorder they all have in common. This can be a great added way to get community and support and to hear from other people in their experiences and even to ask them, hey, how did you all tell your parents? The last thing I want to talk about is if you are able to, or if you are already seeing a doctor or a therapist, they can help you to tell your parents because they can provide evidence that might be helpful to your parents understanding what you're going through. I know a lot of you are probably not in this situation, but for those of you out there that are, this can be another option. Preparatory steps. Write it out. This is important and I think a great idea that I got from Timberland Knowles, which is another eating disorder treatment center. I'll link them down below. Writing it out is great for 3 reasons. 1, it helps you be more practiced and less likely to forget what you're going to say. 2, it can help you to collect ideas over time. So you could start writing what you want to say today, but maybe in a couple days you think of something else you want to add to it. So it's a good way to collect ideas over time. We've all had that conversation where we think of all these great things we could have said afterwards, and this helps you with that. Not to say that you couldn't go back after you have a conversation and tell your parents about something else that you thought of. You absolutely can, and I would encourage you to do so. And then the last reason, number 3, is because you can use it as a reference. So you can take it with you. You can take it with you even if you're not even talking in person. You can have it with you while you're talking on the phone, because maybe if you freeze up or just if you forget something, you can look at it and it'll remind you what you wanted to say, and then you can tell your parents. Now, what do you write down? Well, write down what's been going on. How long has it been going on? How is it affecting you and showing up in your life? And then this 4th idea I got from an Instagram account called @OMGGina, and I'll link that down below too. And she says, write how you feel. Because if your parents maybe are not understanding what you're saying, they may be able to relate to the feelings that you're feeling. And so that can be a way of connecting with them and helping them to understand. Tell them how common it is and how common it is for people to get better with treatment. That can also give them some hope. Tell them it's not something you can control, because we've all been there where somebody says to us, including our parents, well, why don't you just eat less? Or why don't you just eat more? Or why don't you just stop exercising so much? Or why don't you just stop purging? And we know that that's not helpful, but they are most likely trying to be helpful and just don't know what else to say. And so telling them, you know what, if I could have controlled it, I would have already. Off of that, tell them, I need help. That's why I'm coming to you, because I need help. This is a really important one. Number 8, tell your parents how best they can support you, because they just may not know, but really, really want to help. And if you can give them concrete, actionable ideas, then they may feel more empowered to be able to help you because they have an idea of the best way to help you. Now, if you don't know, you don't know. That's okay. But if you do, definitely share with your parents so they can have a way to take action right away in a way that they know will be helpful because you've told them so. And number 9, anything else that I've missed here, because again, all of our experiences are different. So if there's something else I missed, write it down and let them know. Another great option that I saw on Magnolia Creek's website, which is another eating disorder treatment center, I will also link that below, is to take the National Association of Eating Disorders, National Eating Disorders Association, the screening tool on their website. So if you go to nita.com, and I'll link that down below, and the screening tool, you can click on their screening tool and take their little quiz, and it will tell you if they think that you could benefit from some sort of treatment. And this could be some more evidence, kind of like going to the doctor, to give to your parents when they're not understanding what you're saying, or if you feel like they need some more support for what you're saying, like supportive evidence. When you write a paper, we have supporting evidence. This could be a way to share with your parents, like, look, there's another outside resource that's saying that I could benefit from some help. And then I have 3 ideas that may be a little too labor intensive at the moment for you, and that's quite all right. It's not your responsibility to do these things. But if you are able to do these things, they may very much benefit you. And the first one is to research about eating disorders and find information about them that you can present to your parents so that they can have a better understanding of what an eating disorder is. And then the second thing is if you can find resources specifically geared towards parents who have children with eating disorders. With the internet, we can find lots of resources like this, and even parents that are giving testimonials of what their experience was like when their child had an eating disorder. And this could be very comforting to your parents. And then the last thing is to write down potential treatment options for you that you think you might like and that might be most helpful for you. This gives you some agency in your treatment because you can research and look at different treatment options that you think would really benefit you. And you can also present that to your parents. And it may make them feel a little hopeful too, and some agency to take action because there's some ideas of what they can do, especially if they are feeling like, I don't know what to do. And then once you have all this, rehearse what you're going to say. This, again, is kind of like writing it out. It can help you to be more practiced and to develop a habit of what you want to say so that when those butterflies and that heart starts pounding and those nerves kick in, you will have that practice to kind of rely on and bounce back on. It doesn't mean you won't forget things, but it really does help to be able to collect all your thoughts together and be able to say what you want to say. And you can practice by yourself in front of a mirror. You can make a video like this and watch it back. You can speak it into your phone. You can even do it in front of a support person. So I think that's a great option too, to practice what you want to say beforehand. Initiatory steps. Pick a time and a place where no one will be interrupted and nobody will be listening in. You've built up a lot of courage and taken a lot of time and energy to have this conversation, and it's best if it doesn't get interrupted. And then the second thing is what I'm going to say is mandatory. And that is to come up with a self-care plan for afterwards. Again, it's taking a lot of energy and a lot of courage to have this conversation, and you will need to replenish your body afterwards as a way of taking care of yourself. And this may look different for everybody. So whatever looks like self-care for you, make that plan and follow through with it once you have the conversation. And lastly, decide, are you going to have this conversation all in one go, or are you going to need to spread it out? Maybe it's going to be a series of 3 conversations or 5, or maybe that's like, no way, I just need to get it all over with once. Decide what is best for you. Engagement time. This is where it all goes down. All that work you did, now you get to finally present it. Make a plan with your parents for a time to talk. If you are not going to have a conversation in person, then you can just give them your letter, or you could give them your video, or you can even plan a time to give it to them. If you also don't want to plan a time to talk, then just go up and start having a conversation. That is your right to do so as well. There's no right or wrong way to do this. If you also are going to be having the support of a support person, make sure you coordinate with them so that you can be fully supported in this moment. And practice self-care between now and the conversation, if the conversation is going to be some future time. I know for me, I'd be anticipating it, and there would definitely be some nerves, and practicing self-care would be very beneficial. I got another great idea from a YouTube channel called Educating Shani. I'll link that below. And she says to tell your parents how difficult it is for you to have the conversation and to ask them not to shame you. So this could be at the beginning of the conversation or like a couple days before it, however you want to do that. But let them know. That way they can really understand where you're coming from, and they can do their best to be as supportive as possible. After this, have your conversation, all this work, let them know what's important to you. And after you have the conversation, plan on some next steps. This can really help the awkwardness of not knowing what to do afterwards and not knowing who's gonna say something first. You could say, hey, on Tuesday, let's get together and come up with some treatment options and research treatment options, or research more information about eating disorders. Or hey, next Sunday, let's have more of this conversation because I really wanna know more about this. Or hey, I'd like to actually talk to you more about this. So plan some next steps to help with what to do afterwards. And if you feel comfortable, another great idea from Educating Shani is to give your parents a hug and tell them that you love them. This can be a way to have connection for both of you or all of you, and also help to ease everyone's feelings after having that conversation, because just like you are going to have emotions, your parents are also going to have emotions as well, and this can be a great way to come together. If you don't feel comfortable with that, please don't do that. That's just an option if you feel comfortable with it. Self-care plan time. Make sure you follow up with that mandatory step of taking care of yourself so you can replenish after you have put forth this great effort to plan and share with your parents about what you've been going through. And then in the next couple of days, also follow through with the next steps that you and your family have come up with for after your conversation to make sure you are continuing to move forward and use the momentum going forward. And above all else, just the act of telling your parents is recovery work. No matter how they respond, no matter what happens after, you are already on the path of recovery. You are already doing the work. You are already engaging in self-compassion by having this conversation with your parents.